Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am back with Dominic, aka Shadow Fury. By the way, do you prefer one or the other as far as your
Nope.
being called?
I always say whichever the person saying it prefers.
All right, gotcha. Well,
Dominic or Shadow Fury, whichever you prefer.
Mr. Three Man, we have a TVT game. We actually have 3 games to cast between
Oh,
TopRamen
appropriate.
and the Shambler. One of the things I'm looking forward to out of this is which one of our Terrans is actually better at TVT, because Ramen's played a lot of that versus Ayud back when he was around. He's a man in the mountains now. He'll be back in October. I think he was our best Terran player for sure. And he even tried out some Protoss and stuff down the stretch
Like
before
he's
leaving.
going camping?
So. Yeah, he's working a job that requires him to be displaced for a while, I guess. So,
Yep.
yeah, so he's back, though, in October, which is around the time of my birthday, so I'm sure he'll just come back specifically for my birthday and then win a tournament or something. We do need more Terrans, after all, but obviously, as we get into this, I'm sure you might have some of your own ideas about how to adapt some of these guys' play styles, and I don't actually know how much TVT you've been doing lately, but maybe it'll be mapping. Oh, okay, interesting.
I'm doing a lot of TVT lately, actually.
Well, in that case, I say we get rolling and we see exactly what happens in this. You can always break out the notepad, so to speak. But I'm interested because Shambler's a little bit more on the aggressive side, and Ramen historically has been a little bit more on the macro side. And I think both of them have tried to attenuate their different skills. So Ramen's going to be in the bottom right of Maxiom, a 4-spawn map here. And thanks, Shambler. And I believe this is silver, but it might be gray. No, it is silver. Okay, I was right about that.
Nice.
In the Terran in the bottom right. You have any guesses for Shambler's color here?
Blue. Honestly, if there's any color that's just blue, this is blue.
Blue, just blue. Okay.
Ultramarine? Are you kidding me?
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure
Wow.
that's ultramarine, but
I didn't realize there was an ultramarine. I guess I should have guessed because it's a color and B, a Warhammer, kind of a Warhammer reference.
yeah, no kidding. And of course, Shambler would pick that as he is.
Yeah.
I mean, with a name called like the Scourge of God, I feel like surely this man's edge knows no bounds.
That's a very common thing I found. There's a lot of edge.
What, with Shambler or with Warhammer 40k people? I guess both, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, it fits.
Yes.
It really does fit.
you
Like there's
expect
nothing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, speaking, I just love the 1,000 APM ramens at in the beginning of the game. That's
Yeah, just constantly cycling between everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely useless, but it looked kind of cool, I guess. There you go. You get 4-digit APM. Look at you, Ramen.
That's right.
Okay, I jest. Ramen seems a pretty okay guy, but yeah, I've noticed a few players do this as a common thing, just sort of get their hands warmed up.
Yep.
So it's to get your hands warmed up. It keeps you kind of in that rhythm. Maybe I should do it myself. I honestly, personally try to see if how much I can do with the lowest APM possible.
Yes.
Like to avoid wasting actions.
Yeah. Yeah, the efficiency angle is definitely one that's worth exploring, in my opinion. Seeing how much you can get out of that. We will have
It's really easy to get tunnel visioned.
Yeah, we will have a similar build from both of our players going mech first, but you see Shambler delaying his Corey a little bit. The only real change there so far. Ramen is going to pick the worker. Scouting pattern, not yet affording him. He actually scouted later. Maybe that's why Shambler's Corey is out a little bit later as well, because obviously that does impact your economy a bit. So scouting with the Vulture and the Mason at the same time is what Ramen's game plan is.
Which is a solid plan, because they are going to be delayed both ways. In fact, they're Mason just going the exact opposite path that Shambler took.
Yes, that's right. So, I mean, at least Shambler does know where his opponent is, but it's not really like you
Yes.
can act on that information. When it's cross spawns like this, you expect a slugfest macro game. That's what I'm guessing, anyway.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, the rush distance is as long as it can be, and, well, Ramen is prepared. Ramen has an entire choke point full of lobotomy mines, so in case Shambler tries anything, Ramen won't really care. I mean, just keep an eye out for when they expand, because I expect it'll be fairly soon.
Another feature of Maxiom as well is that the 12 and 6 positions already have a town center you can return to. So if somebody did have an excess number of workers but didn't want to bother setting up another base, you could just waypoint a bunch of them over there for quick and dirty sort of mini expansion. No Vespine, of course, but lots of minerals there.
And it can be handy, especially if we're going for bio, or just massive ultras.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I guess tier 2 bio, you know,
Yeah.
tons of
the
mad caps. That's
yeah.
definitely a mineral sink.
Absolutely the case. I think we're probably going to end up seeing some changes to a couple of the units, like the Autocrat and the Heracles. I have some ideas for coming up with them, but Heracles is also a pretty heavy mineral sink. It's just I don't think anybody at the top level bothers building them, so not a commonly
I've never
built
honestly seen them be used except by me,
Oh,
and
I
that's
see.
more just because it's like it's there.
Yes, yeah. You might as well see if it works.
I'm still in that experimental stage where I'm going like, oh, well, what's this do? Let's try this. Let's hit the button to build these things.
Yes, yeah.
I don't want to go monocomp. That never works, right?
Yeah, honestly, one thing that I'm very proud about when it comes to Cosmonarchy is sure there's going to be a couple of units that don't see a lot of adaptation, and maybe they're a bit more on the experimental side. Like Jackie Langsky recently, a Zerg player had mentioned the Gitor core wasn't very good, and then Hamster was like, wait a second, don't you think that they're really powerful? And, there was some back and forth about like the health of the unit concept and stuff, and that's always fine. But one of the things I am proud about is that you can't build just one unit and get away with a lot, So monocomp does not work in this game.
Very, very early lesson to learn. Although, it seems Shambler is trying their best to make the vultures do the trick.
Yes. His vulture with Anseal. Now we see Ramen upgrading his military a little bit faster. Right? He's getting that. He's got that palladium, building a phalanx. He will come in and get slapped by the mine, but he might be able to get out. No, it looks like he's not going to be able to get out. He just clears another mine. That's all that vulture was good for. But crucially, he's using a vulture that didn't have any mines left. Yeah. And apparently Shambler didn't realize where his opponent was actually. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, what?
Yeah, because his Mason got killed by a vulture, so you'd think he would have guessed that it was in the bottom right.
Well, I mean, at least, luckily for them, for now, they're the Antseals, so they can know not to advance. That's the important thing. Shambler getting out of there without losing anything.
Yeah, you got to watch out here, though, because those vultures can and will give chase to that Cyclops. That doesn't look like it's going to be long for this world, especially when it goes back down there, and then cliff advantage kicks in because it hits down the ramp, and so that'll be bopped. Back down to the mono comp we were just talking about here for Shambler. Adding fulcrums.
Okay, Ramen coming in. Only really blocked off of the Antseals. Shambler, well thought out there. Cyclops is doing everything they can, but even their splash damage is not enough to get through the Antseal energy.
Yeah, the Antseals are blocking the on-hit capacity here from the from what Ramen's got, and he deploys the phalanx, but it's just going to get focused down. Does manage to score a couple of important hits onto those vultures, but yeah, as of right now, he needs a much bigger mass of Cyclops to be able to deal with this Antseal horde, if you will. And in fact, the Antseals are coming in.
Currently going for it.
Yeah, they are. Like Shambler's definitely got a lot of Antseals, so he's up to 4 right now. It's going to be pretty scary for this stage of the game.
I do find it interesting that Ramen has gone for a ministry as opposed to the pretty typical treasury that Shambler's gone for. Ramen's going to have a much easier time building up their economy off the 2 bases. And at this point, I feel like that gives Shambler a slight advantage. They spent 200 minerals fewer on their expansion. But at the same time, after all the trades in the last fight, it's kind of anyone's game.
Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't say any player is particularly ahead, and it looks like Shambler's got the bigger military. Ramen doesn't really want to move out, though, because he's got the worker queue advantage, so he can saturate that second base and get ready to take a third a little bit faster. That's sort of my piece on the game so far. They have the same fulcrum count, although there is no palladium yet for Shambler, and no star pad yet for Ramen. Instead, he's gone for the stockade with the vestry, which is going to equip him with healing. So you can see where the differences between the players. It's funny, Ramen was the guy who was spamming Antseals in the sort of yesteryear type of game. Like during his tournament debut in Acropolis #1, he really showed off a lot of Antseal play. And it was actually what allowed him to defeat players like Neblime, even in tournament play, which is very surprising back in that time. So, this is the kind of thing that he was known for sure.
Well, it seems like they've decided more experimental style, and at this point, Shambler is going to be running right into a wall of phalanxes.
That's right.
The Antseals will stop them from going into the mines, but it doesn't matter. The phalanxes is the problem. Absolutely,
yeah. The splash damage already starting to stack up there. The Antseals will have to head out elsewhere. There's still a couple of mines blocking any vulture commits. It looks like Shambler really wants to make this style work with nothing but Antseal Shaman, Antseal Vulture, but it's not working out whatsoever.
Now Ramen is definitely in the lead. They got their worker count. Actually, worker count is not even higher. They've been not focusing on that at all. While Shambler going for the quick third.
Yeah.
Well, quick third from base. Like both players going for the third at the same time. Ultimately, that worker queue advantage.
Yes.
Not giving Ramen a whole lot of an edge.
Not right now. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and set up a treasury for his third on location. As you mentioned, Shambler kind of doing the same thing, but floating his over. And the one worker queue will still be north for Ramen. He's going to have that unless he decides a different add-on for the third base treasury. But he's adding another Palladium, so I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of Phalanx pressure here. We got a Trojan out for the star pad that Ramen has made. And you know what? Despite all of the vultures, it feels like Shambler hasn't really used them too much to plant a lot of mines. He's got a decent amount to the east of his third, but he's only got like 1 or 2 elsewhere, and I don't know that that's going to be enough. I mean, you factor in the number of vultures he actually made, it feels like he could have had a lot more, probably in and preferably in other spots on the map. We've got a tank drop going to be coming out here, the Sieged Phalanx, and that doesn't do as much damage to Terran players because the workers can survive the blast, but if it fires a second shot, it could be real messy.
Well, in the beginning, there will be spot on the way in, as Shambler has set up a well-placed lobotomy mine to keep an eye out for drops.
That's right. And look at that spawn right behind the mineral line in the main, too. That could be really deadly for the Phalanx if it gets unloaded there.
Ramen not dropping near it, though. Well played.
Yeah.
The second shot comes out, starts taking out some investment miners. What is Shambler's reaction? So far, they are moving a handful of Goliaths back while escaping the rest of the rest of the Masons. And Ramen, realizing they've done their job, moves to escape.
Not going to get out.
They're taken out by the Goliaths. Shambler stopping any more shenanigans onto their fourth, which is already starting.
That's right. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And you know what? You think about it. Ramen didn't scout the fourth going up on location. He would have scouted it had that Trojan gotten out. So big kill onto the transport, mostly because it denies this information. Sure, you like killing the tank as well, but we're going to see this vulture deny the fourth base on location for Ramen without a little bit more investment here. He's actually going to go ahead and put it down anyway. Maybe he can save the structure from being canceled if he scoots up there a little bit. That's just something that he's going to have to deal with.
Trojan on the way with another Siege Phalanx. This is going to work.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Oh, look at that one. He's on the treasury. He doesn't cancel it on the fourth base, but the ant seals are en route.
So Ramen going heavy on the drops then. I mean, we saw the first Trojan, thought, well, you know, maybe they're just going for a Trojan, and now it's pretty clear this is their game plan.
That's right. He manages to scoop it up. Goliath's only taking a glancing blow from the splash. And the Atlas is on the way for the Shambler. A couple of mines were laid in the interim, and so they are going to spot out this ground move, I believe. Another Mason tries to make it to the bottom left, but it's scared off by a vulture that the Mason probably could have killed, actually, judging by the HP. Another treasury had been made. It's going to serve as a wall.
And while this is happening, Ramen going for the front base push. Shambler with the treasury up front. I mean, going for the expansion, but it's working well to hold everything up while Shambler's forces come in and surround Ramen's. Ramen trying reinforcements, but their main army is going to die before the reinforcements are able to arrive. Those ant seals are doing an amazing job for Shambler.
Oh, yes.
Now the reinforcements have started to trickle in, but Ramen simply doesn't have the amount of damage they need, doesn't have the staying power they need to hold off Shambler's force, and Shambler could just walk across the map at this point, and there's not a whole lot Ramen could do about it.
No, he's got a lot of workers lying around. Sure, the 10-worker advantage, most of them being idle at the third base right now, could be transferred over to the fourth, but the more pressing matter is the fact that the military count has gotten way out of hand for Shambler, having a crazy amount of staying power. It feels like when Ramen first attacked forward with all of those phalanxes, he didn't have most of them in the one spot, and I think if that had been the case, he would have been in a much better spot for actually dealing damage. The Ant Seal scouting around for him, getting information, knows that his opponent is on the same 4 bases, so he's even economically, and here we have Ramen kind of doing a little bit of a sideshow move in the bottom left as his 4th base comes under fire.
Yeah, they sent those troops to get rid of one of the vultures going to take out their Mason. I guess that did some damage, but those were some of the siege tanks you're talking about or phalanxes you're talking about that would have been really nice to have with the main army on that push.
Yeah, look at this. He's now heckling the spot where the Atlas is in the natural, using a dropped phalanx. And even though some good worker damage does get dealt to the 4th base, we still have Ramen ahead by 5. Pretty inconsequential for now. Oh, the last second scooping up that phalanx in Shambler's natural. He's got another one idling near the 4th, so can still continue to sort of heckle the Shambler and kind of pull him back. It's a pure miracle for Ramen's sake that Shambler didn't just pull the trigger on an attack move, because he would have absolutely mopped the floor with him, as you mentioned, before this Goliath stack could get up and running. So another
credit to Ramen. They've been rapidly rebuilding their forces and doing... I mean, looking at the resources, Ramen has barely been floating.
Yeah, Yeah, a fair point. Definitely something that he's able to keep up. You look at the production advantage he's got. He does have 9 fulcrums coming up online here, or 8 fulcrums coming up online, whereas I only see 5 right now for the Shambler. But he does have tier 2, switching into some Gorgons, it looks like, with the air push. And, and yet another Phalanx drop. It's killed 8 workers so far, and maybe counting with the battle workers engaging, seeing what they can do.
Don't let it come back.
Oh, it died.
You didn't have to let it die.
Well, he's got his Goliaths on location. There's going to be a couple of ministries canceled over here, it looks like, serving as pseudo walls until Shambler's army can make it way over. I wonder what the Goliath stack is for. Is he just trying to focus down individual ant seals? I suppose maybe that's what he's going for.
That makes sense. There's still 11 of them, and that's going to be tough to focus down. That's one of those situations where it almost feels like just get splash. I mean, I get the point for the Goliaths, but still it feels like at some point you just got to bypass the ant seals completely.
Yep, yeah, and you think about like Madrigals, the other unit you get from the Palladium, their anti-air splash damage that could have been done there. Oh, the dropship, the Trojan trying to get in another tank drop in the natural gets preempted by the Goliaths. We got Gorgons swinging out to the right-hand side of the map here, and it looks like Shambler's going to continue the harassment.
Another one on the 4th too, but that Sentinel's is going to say no.
Yeah, it gets a couple extra worker kills. That's about it. It looks like the Trojan will narrowly escape, but there's more Goliaths awaiting it in the main.
It'll narrowly escape into the jaws of more Goliaths.
That's right.
Shambler's defense is completely airtight. They've just... Well, I would say to see the rest of the map, but the Gorgons are on the field, so that's their entire... That's what they need. Ramen now is going to be struggling to manage to get out of their base. Well, Shambler, granted, can't move too far out. They also know Ramen can't expand. Like, both players are kind of at a standstill right now.
Well, that treasury didn't end up getting focused down, so it can be rebuilt at some point.
Workers, though. Ramen's just lost the worker advantage. They had a 16 worker advantage, and now they're down.
Yeah, the 5 Gorgons now turned 4. They're starting to get heckled on the side here. Shambler focusing on other things as he starts to consider a fallback, but he's done really, really nicely with that Gorgon push. No watchdogs were made. In fact, I don't think Ramen knew at all that the starports were even up to begin with. So he's gotten 3 of his own in construction. Shambler still has the starport advantage, going for pretty big switch into that heavy air, feeling like the ant seals might be repurposed for escorting them at some point. Another phalanx drop. The Trojan does get taken out. Only 1 battle worker trying to dematerialize it in the natural.
It's rapidly tearing it apart, turning it to scrap.
Yes.
Bought enough time. And now Ramen and Shambler, once again, even on workers. Gorgons know exactly where Ramen is set up. Actually, Ramen can't even get their worker transfer over to their 5th base because that's just... Well, 6th base, I guess, at this point. Because Gorgon's stopping it. Shambler maintaining a reasonably strong economical position, and Ramen feel very spread out. The drop play has been working all right, but it's clearly past its prime now.
Yeah, just setting up a couple of small outposts, it looks like. That's what Ramen's game plan was in the upper stage. He's actually transferring most of his mech forces in that location. But the Antseal Blob, equipped with a couple of Tier 1 mech units, many of them wounded from previous engagements, is starting to posture outside of the Shambler's soon-to-be 5th base. He has gotten that ministry up and running in that location. A Vulture run-by catching some Masons on the way out. This is a good play from Ramen. Definitely able to keep up with things. But you can see, really, it's quite the struggle to keep the money low, even at this stage in the game when you have this many bases. We got 3 mantles out. You got the Starports making Valkyries to deal with the air stacks and the Ant Seals, for that matter. And yes, indeed, that 6th base for Ramen is going to get brought down. So this is going to force the issue. Ramen might try to isolate this force, but there's more Shambler units out on the map elsewhere.
Those Shambler units are not in position, so Ramen's isolating this force. Ramen isolating most of the Ant Seals, more importantly.
Yes.
Biggest asset that Shambler has going for them. And if that can be taken out, it will be a significant swing in Ramen's favor.
Oh, yes. And remember, most of these Goliaths were super low as well, so they're just going to get peppered out. A Trojan coming on the way in, but there's nothing to snipe it anymore, so all Shambler will know is that it's coming in. And the Ant Seal's not evacuating. I think that's a big mistake, but Wyvern stacks have emerged into the natural of Ramen. It's just that the Valkyries are already here in numbers, and they will eventually break down these Wyverns. Even though they're heavily armored, it doesn't much matter when you have so many Valks.
That being said, once again, the worker count, it is now 50% in favor of Shambler. Ramen, like the issue has been pressed. Ramen is going to need to move out, is going to need to do some serious economic damage to even this game out. Otherwise, Shambler's just going to run away with it. Yeah,
well, the Goliaths inside the Lodestone are going to help break down the wounded Wyverns. and there's not really going to be any additional worker damage dealt. At this point, that was a significant investment from the Shambler. Where's his ground army? The answer is he doesn't really have it. Not one that can really counter this Goliath push at the very least. So you were talking about worker damage. How you like that? The whole 6th base is up and running, or 5th base rather, for Shambler is completely out of commission. And we even have Goliaths catching the Wyverns in transmission. There's going to be nothing here for Shambler pretty soon.
All right, Ramen has managed to find the way back in. Shambler, though, not resting on their laurels, moving back into the base, spotting the phalanxes with the ant seals. They know they can't just walk right up, but they are able to get rid of a free treasury. At the same time, though, the rest of their forces are barely able to hold off Ramen's army with a height advantage, and that may soon end. Only a handful of Goliaths left. The Wyverns still in play, but not end the fight.
Well, that 5th base here for Ramen is now under duress. Hasn't rebuilt as many workers as he would like to in this situation. And if he loses that 5th base, he's going to lose out on the saturation advantage. Some of his Goliaths dealing with ground units instead of sniping these Wyverns. That's a big mistake too as well.
That mistake gives Shambler the means to get back into or get their 5th secured. Or their 4th rather secured. Their 5th is gone. They've actually just back down to 4 bases. Ramen, however, losing that 5th as well. Can they isolate? They can isolate the forces. Shambler able to get a lot of economic damage, but sacrificing their army in the process. Where they divided themselves and God conquered for it. Now Ramen.
Oh, there's more workers coming back into that 5th base location for Shambler. They're just getting melted down by the Phalanx's bad rally.
But that's still, they've got a 60 worker advantage. Shambler can afford to lose a few of them.
Yes, absolutely. You know, the Valkyrie count is starting to dwindle here for Ramen. He hasn't really been keeping up with the production. Floating a decent amount of money right now. Instead, very tunnel visioned on the when it comes to the military. Now panning back to deal with that. The one Wyvern tickling the Phalanxes. Oh no, he's attacked his own Goliath. Ramen.
Oof, I hate when I do that.
Yeah, a little bit of an unfortunate situation. If he could siege outside of the 3rd base, he could really start punishing this ground funnel that is created by that wounded treasury. But Shambler not going to be punished for that. Instead, I mean, his Air Force has been fallen, but the question is, can you actually break up this ramp? I mean, you have no Air Force of your own if you're in Ramen's shoes, and he is going to move another set of Goliaths out to that treasury, but it's finally going to get lifted, and that will allow some of the Tier 3 bio and, of course, the Goliaths to reign supreme in that location for Shambler.
Same time, Shambler on the eastern side of the map taking out Ramen's 5th base.
Yes.
Now Ramen down to basically no base, 1 base without depleted minerals.
Yes, yeah.
And that doesn't have a whole lot of workers on it either.
Well, he doesn't have a whole lot of workers in general. He does get a Phalanx over here in that Trojan, but it's just going to die to the Watchdog, unfortunately. So good ideas from Ramen, but he has lost that 5th base location. And sure, you know, he's got a couple of workers over here, but the Gorgon count is high enough to deal with the Lodestone. Goliaths there just buying time. And that's the risk you take when you're dealing with an enemy going mass air and you don't have a lot of Watchdogs. You didn't make too many, Valkyries and such. Good irradiate, but the Seraph will get sniped. And it feels like at this point, Shambler has just been able to deal with an opponent who didn't respond to the air threats in time. I think Shambler does have the advantage and has had it for a while in terms of economics, but it's starting to swing. You know, you're starting to see the ramifications of that.
Well, like I said, Ramen needed to deal some economic damage. They dealt some economic damage, but it just simply wasn't enough relative to what Shambler was throwing back at them. Not to mention, Shambler was able to leverage that into Tier 3. So when you bring all that together, it's very clear. Yeah, Shambler did take a lot of hits, but not enough, not hard enough at the bases for Ramen to get back into the game after losing all those workers, after losing that 5th to the first Gorgon push. Or first Return push. Yeah,
it doesn't help that it looks like in this situation here, with more captaincies in play, and, cleaning up the couple of units that are rallied across the map, Ramen's trying to keep it going, but he's definitely very far behind. He hasn't really been able to heckle the workers as well as he could with those drops early on. I think if he had defended the air, he would have been in a much better position for sure. And, it's a lesson he can bring to maybe the second game.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how they respond in the second game, because this first game, I mean, they have the Valkyries and those have been handy, but it just still feels like there's this tech advantage Shambler has managed to develop that simply isn't really easily countered.
Yeah, a horde of vultures to spend down the minerals have been assembled by the Shambler, and he's going to just run by directly into the natural. There's not really anything that can hold them back. Sure, you have the Seraph here to do some irradiation or something, but the Wyverns are coming as well, holding down that 4th base location. One lobotomy mine that had been put down a long, long time ago is all that really stood between those vultures and their target. And more sentinels being erected at the high ground. Feels like that was never properly dealt with either. So, Shambler is going to go ahead and take this first game almost certainly. Radiation on the Valks for good measure. He's going to thin the herd with the vultures there, but it's just there's so many, and you're getting so few down. You're down by 100 workers at this point. You know, Ramen doesn't have any way to know that exactly, just kind of has to intuit it, but...
No, I mean, that's... At this point, they must have figured, because they've lost 4 bases already. And there really isn't any way out of this for Shambler. Sorry, for Ramen. I'm really impressed, though, because Ramen, they had a very strong economic start. They had a strong military start. They were able to do significant damage to Shambler, but it was unfortunately, like you said, the air presence, the Wyverns that really started to make this Shambler's game, and there was about 5-10 minutes where really Ramen had a solid shot at building up the anti-air, getting countering that, protecting their, setting up sentinels or even setting up watchdogs around all of their expansions just to be on the safe side, just to slow down any Wyverns or later Gorgons that came in.
And you think about that 5 Gorgon attack, that was, I almost feel like it was Shambler showing his hand a little bit too fast. If you see that, you know, oh, okay, my opponent's got air. Unless he was baiting to try to get Ramen into a situation where he overcommitted to the air counter. There's not really a reason to show that early, and indeed, GG will be called. It's going to be our boy, the Shambler, taking it on. He did it without typing too much. I'm proud of him. And yeah, we have yet another game to cast here. It is looking like, judging by the running time of these matches, we'll have to get that third one out in a separate video. But if you're still good, we can go straight into
I'm still good. Just give me 1 second because my cat needs something.
There we go. There we go. Well, we are just about to get into match number 2 here, and I don't know. I do like Ramen's general mechanical prowess with the macro. You mentioned it earlier that he spent down the minerals and gas quite well, kept himself away from floating too much money. And so I think his general mechanics are a step above Shambler's. However, Shambler didn't have the knowledge there to go for the air units. And yeah, I'm interested in seeing what the reaction is going to be. Do you have any predictions as we get started with game number 2 on yet another match of
still
Maxiom?
in Maxiom,
That's
so...
right.
Oh, it's going to really come down to whether or not... Oh, we're on cross spots again.
There we go. Same spawns, in fact.
I was about to say, if we're not in cross spawns, then it changes things, because we probably see... I mean, Shambler does tend to like to go for a little bit of aggression, but being in cross spots again... Now, to be fair, last time Shambler messed up scouting. So I expect this time Shambler's going to get that scouting correct, and that'll put Ramen in a slightly more pressured position early on.
Most likely, yeah. Since we're in the same spots, it's worth noting, I'm going to guess Shambler's red. He is red. The only, and you know, it's better dead than red. I'm sure Shambler would agree. He is in the top left. I'd say Ramen as a silver Terran in the bottom right. Not his rank, of course, but not his rank. He must be selecting silver as his preferred color because he's gotten it 2 games in a row. That's my prediction anyway. Once again, a very fast scout here from Shambler. This is something that Nebline was commenting on when he was watching Shambler against Hamster recently with me. And he said that that early scout doesn't really do you a lot of favors when you're trying to bank up the resources in the early game. So Ramen has the more optimized build. You gave him some praise in the last game for having like a right sort of idea for the counter and having a really nice situation to just be flexible in that mid-game section. You know, I think these are the players that can arrive to mid-game pretty easily, pretty nicely. But once they get there, that's when it's down to decision-making. That's when it's down to practice. Like, they've practiced enough early-game situations to know, here's what I do. And then eventually they get to a point where they don't know what they should do anymore. And that's just the way it goes with a game like this, where there's so many units and so many novel situations you can be in every single match.
Well, I mean, that is the charm of it, after all. So, or one of the charms of it, anyway. I would say that I am still a bit surprised that Ramen didn't go for that treachery first last game. Like, I think since Shambler's going to spot them early, I don't think Ramen's going to have the luxury of building the better defended, more expensive expansion option.
Right, yeah, he's actually going to get up the ramp this time and see structures, so it'll preserve on the minimap the whole time. And you know what? He might not have gotten close enough to see the quarry, but you can kind of intuit that. It is coming faster for Ramen yet again.
Quarry is very, very common.
That's right. That's right. So common, in fact, that we even get the peanut gallery. Oh, it's a scrapyard. This is uncommon, actually. So if Ramen's going to go for this, I think it will be Matadors, but it really depends on what he's fighting against. He's got something. He's got some idea going on here.
I mean, it makes sense. Look, they have no gas mining.
Oh, okay. It's Blackjacks then. Okay.
Yeah.
No Vespian at all. Blackjacks. So the thing with Blackjacks is that you want to pair them with Terran Healing because as the more they stay closer to max health, the more they're going to be at... the closer they're going to be to max damage, max DPS.
Yeah, they work like squad-type units in other games.
Right, yeah, you can kind of think of it as that. So getting the healing up is definitely a good one. Making sure... He only made the one so far, so he must be thinking about... A Vulture Blackjack Treasury expand. So it is going to be a treasury, but he has an idea here. There's something going on. The gears are turning.
I'm trying to think of what it would be because, I mean, the Blackjack is reasonably strong, but like you said, there's not much healing. Oh, anchor float. Is it an anchor float? It's an anchor.
Is it at least an anchor?
That's for sure.
Yeah. You know, I would love to see a Terran like Mystery Meat back in the day. You missed the glory days where Mystery Meat was in. He was our best player for sure. I'd love to see him come back and prove himself there yet again. He has he was able to show people what happens if you don't like chase his scout down or whatever. If you don't stop his Mason from like he'll Mason scout you, and then instead of sending it back home, he'd build an anchor and then just lift it into your base. And like 9 times out of 10, that would give him a really nice advantage, even versus other experienced players. So like they would need to make sure that they killed the worker. It is going to be a vulture, maybe like a 1 Anseal move out with these vultures. But the reason you put the Blackjacks in the anchor is because they cannot be damaged, right? To reduce their general power, right? So that is super useful for this particular purpose. They will keep the same DPS as they normally have, as long as they're in that anchor. And that is much deadlier for single target than you might expect initially. So it'll be interesting.
And in order the game, we got nothing but single target.
That's right. Especially when you're going up against mech, it's not like it's bio or whatever. So
no, that's like as few targets as you could possibly run into. The Anseal is going to be the only real problem for this, which, again, Shambler going for that. Same as last game. Like, Vulture Anseal, like you pointed out.
Yes.
And that still is a later expansion. I mean, Ramen going for the cheaper expansion gets the earlier expansion. And I do appreciate that Anchor just, like, makes the wall. Like, Ramen knows they are safe. Doesn't matter what Shambler does for the next 2 or 3 minutes. They are totally safe. Well, save a drop, maybe. But since when, like, Shambler didn't go for drop last game, so it's a good chance not going to go for drop this game.
Yeah, that's right. And we even have like a vulture hiding around in that 4th base location. So the upper 9 o'clock, as I sometimes will call it, upper 9 here is going to be occupied and scouted and such. So I actually think that it's in a really nice spot to kind of anticipate the moves that might sort of slap him around. And you know what? He's put the treasury down. He's got the quarry already. He's been mining Vespian from this base for a very long time. And Shambler's going to try to do the same thing, but he's minutes behind, it feels like, or at least a minute behind in terms of what Ramen's tempo is established. Palladium coming. No star pad yet, but we saw how successful those early drops were. If he tries that again with an even stronger economy backing him up, and even faster economy, I should say, that could be really nice. He's got a Mason out on the map. Well, we were talking about anchor floats earlier. I don't know that it'll be that significant this game, but he might, there's this old style that you would do where you build a watchdog, lift it, and use it as a scout, and Ramen has been known to do that. Yeah. So we'll see if that ends up being what he's going to end up doing. There is a bit of a scuffle out on the front, but only good for a single vulture kill so far.
Oh, are they? No. Shambler really is going for it.
There we go.
Mine wiping everything. Okay, that's gotta hurt. Ramen doesn't have the body mines anymore, but Shambler doesn't have an army.
Yeah, he's fine with that trade,
I guess.
Yeah, he lost a single vulture. That's it. That's what he lost, and I guess that's what Shambler is referring to. There's 2 different kinds of movement in the game. There's iScript movement and Flingy movement, and Flingy is like vultures, air units, that sort of stuff, whereas any unit with acceleration.
Acceleration, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's what he was referencing there, because only vultures went down. Watchdog is indeed going to be lifted over at the upper 9, and a treasury being added for a fast 3rd base. With the Vespian income that Ramen's going to have from that 3rd base, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a sub 10-minute Atlas. Only now getting the quarry is Shambler, so... Well,
I've never been sure what the normal timing is myself.
Yeah, I've seen... apparently Ramen has gotten to a point... He did, when he was earlier starting the game, managed to get to a ridiculous timing where it was something like a 14-minute data or something like that. I forget what he said.
Wow.
But like a ridiculous amount, like 3 base data. Like if you just leave him alone, he'll have tier 3 started, actual tier 3 structures beginning at 15 minutes or something crazy. So pretty nuts at that situation. But I don't know what he's going for this time. It looks like he's going to be a little bit more liberal with his Vespene spending. Gets a nice scout out, sees where the Watchdog is in the main and the natural, and also sees what he's up against with the 3, soon-to-be 4 Fulcrums. So Shambler doesn't really have the element of surprise for anything, and that Mason is still stationed at upper 9. It can just make another Watchdog at some point for the scout. Treasury landing for the 3rd, and Ramen is in a really nice spot, I think.
Yeah, setting up 5 or 3 more Fulcrums, along with the Vestry getting Clerics out. So now I'm curious if there's going to go for more Blackjacks for the healing, or just, not like you need it. I was kind of anchored to that because you were pointing that out before, but really, Cleric's just good.
Yeah.
Like, a wall of healing is never bad.
Yeah, not unhappy with that. You see the Treasury coming out over here. This Vulture actually clearing some mines, funnily enough, so could end up opening up room for another drop. And there is a Trojan, in fact, that just finished, so we'll see what he wants to do with that.
There is. Ramen's got to be a little careful, though, because they are... they were just about to run in with like 3 Cyclops and nothing else. Yeah, and
against 6 Anseals here is going to be real hard to break that. Now, there is a Phalanx drop incoming to the sort of upper middle area of the map, so it looks like it will be trying to go for this spot that the Vulture cleared the mine in. But Shambler's already reinforced it with the 2nd Watchdog, so might not be the best move. Treasury now moving over for the 3rd 4-hour Red Terran. And in fact, as the Watchdog is being put up here, the Mason will be bopped, which is a little unfortunate for Ramen as he arrives too late to defeat the Vulture before it can snipe his man.
Still, that's some scouting for the 4th.
Oh, look at this.
Dropping to kill the Watchdog. Get out of there.
Oh,
still spotting for it. Just barely able to escape. Ramen's drop. It didn't lose. Didn't manage to do much, but it didn't lose either. So,
yes.
They can come back to that another day.
That's right. Get that repaired up to full health. 5 Fulcrum production, only 1 Palladium, and then indeed the scrapyard has kind of gone by the wayside here. You still keep it in case you absolutely need, something in particular, but it looks like at this point he's happy to, keep spending the resources, keep the money flowing, and is banking up a little bit of Vespene at this point. So,
yeah, they're definitely setting up to go for that tier 2.
Yeah, 4th base very fast here on the way. The Watchdog just kind of blocking the situation right now. Not going to be canceled or anything, but at least it'll be known that maybe the 4th base is on the way. And I like this. As soon as Ramen sees that the army's moved out, he sends the drop back out to maybe threaten that and see if he can find a way in. Another Watchdog has been added to the natural, so Shambler really doesn't want that to happen, obviously, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, Ramen just placed down the Atlas.
Yes.
Shambler should have one soon as well. They definitely are saving up the Vespene for it.
Yeah. He's not as on top of it, per se, but he will just go ahead and throw it down. So he's not that far behind, after all, in terms of the tech timing. Getting his 4th base, but not on location, as Ramen's is about to finish. In that last game on Maxiom, we didn't see anybody using the neutral treasuries. We'll see if that makes its way in. And, speaking of, Shambler is actually going to be pressuring this 4th base. There is no army in place to really snipe it or to counter-snipe it, and as the lodestone's coming in, it's going to have to be canceled pretty soon, I think. Treasury might just end up getting destroyed.
Yeah, Ramen's way out of position. This unfortunate, very, very unfortunate for Ramen. Shambler will be able to stay ahead on that with that expansion. But Ramen, cut off the army. The Anseal is going a little too far forward.
Indeed.
Must be grouped in with everything else. Got to be careful. You cannot group Anseals with everything else and not pay attention to them, because they will fly too far forward and get themselves shot.
That's right. It's sort of like these Masons are doing right now. Another treasury being made, not on location, of course. And you know what? As the Phalanx, once again, is looking around for a spot, he's going to find a little bit of high ground to start peppering these units from. Unfortunately, not really going to be able to do too much. But hey, every time he stops attacking, the vision gets lost. So he gets to reload in peace. But there we go. He's going to get brought down.
I got rid of a Vulture and a couple Cyclops. That was a trade.
It was a trade, yeah. Might have even been exactly cost efficient. Starport now up for Ramen, coming online, I should say. See if Shambler wants to go for the same thing. Maybe Ramen will go for the Wyverns himself to be like, oh, the 2 can play at this game. But,
Worked for you. Let's see what happens.
I mean, I will say Shambler has a better situation for it. Right? He's got a lot more Watchdogs and a lot more situations here. But the Goliath Cleric move is going to see if it can break this position. The Treasury starting to get focused, but it's absorbing damage that should have been going to the actual units. And now the Anseals are out of energy. Phalanx shot after Phalanx shot connecting upon these poor souls. And the Goliaths are indeed going to get sent to the Nether Realm.
All one of the clerics going down. Ramen, still though, it did the job. They very clever with positioning, making sure that Shambler's forces were not being efficient. And that fourth is just a matter of time.
Well, look at this. The fourth base for Shambler now getting contested as well. And Shambler's attention is a bit busy on everything else. Hasn't actually scrambled too many units to go respond to that. I think the Treasury will stay alive just narrowly, especially if that Ant Seal absorbs a lot of attention as the Goliaths are starting to attack onto it instead. And actually, Shambler has stayed alive in this position. Ramen not really committing enough attention to attacking the Treasury or attacking and clearing the army. Shambler has somehow continued to just be annoying with all of the Ant Seals.
Annoying and persistent. More reinforcements are coming in, but yeah, Ramen didn't really push forward up the cliff once they started clearing out the forces.
Well, he's going to dispatch a worker to the bottom left, so Ramen will try to get just a faster fifth base in response to having his fourth delayed for so long, and that can still be a way to get back into things. Now, these Goliaths are finally going to be brought on down. I say, you know, with a little bit more confidence than last time, and there we go. That's the real finally. The final finally.
Half a dozen Ant Seals do escape. Shambler will leave them for the next fight.
Yeah, that's right. Scoop up and get their energy regeneration. For those who don't know, energy regenerates very fast in Cosmonarchy, but you need to have not spent any energy in a short amount of time. So it's a 2-second delay before you actually get that energy back. So something to keep in mind, and something that makes Ant Seals in particular quite persistent. Double Ministry coming in. This is something we saw Shambler try to do in the upper 9 in the last game, but interestingly enough, in this match, he's going to be able to do it without being contested nearly as much. I say that, but there's a big phalanx stack moving out, and this is coming before any air units can be scrambled from these starports, only one of which is just now finished for the Shambler.
They are going for that fifth too. Ramen very aware that this is the vulnerable spot. This is the place to attack. Spots the ministries. And will they work as walls again?
Yes, that's the
Shambler
question.
was able to get away with so much, having those ministries just body block everything else, or distract everything else, really.
No,
one stops being built. Second one, it's going to matter. The Ant Seals are coming in,
yes.
but it's a question of timing. Is this soon enough? Goliath after Goliath going down to Ramen's phalanx shots.
Oh my god, he's got so many over here. This is 11 phalanxes. He's already destroyed, no cancel on one of those ministries, and the Ant Seal's now desperately trying to protect these Goliaths, but it's not going to be enough, and Shambler will be beaten back. More units scrambling out into the upper 12, so you got to watch out for that potential flank as well.
Not to mention, Ramen just coming around, double-checking the neutral before going in for a flank.
Yes.
Not really finding a whole lot of purchase thanks to the Sentinels, but still, that makes Shambler more and more committed to the 4 bases they already have.
I just watched a cleric die trying to repair a mine. The things that you see in Cosmonarchy. Another deployment of these phalanxes, though, and this phalanx count has not been attenuated whatsoever. So even though, yes, the Goliath count has fallen, and that's going to leave an opening for air units to counter-push, I mean, you've lost so many things. The 44 workers that were oversaturating that upper 9 base are evacuating, thankfully, out of range of the phalanxes. But that is a cancel on that 4th base. And now Shambler has to think about what to do. I guess he could try to saturate this upper 12, but obviously very open to attack.
That's not even seemingly on their mind.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bouncing over, looking back and forth, seem to be thinking about it.
I love this from...
That might have to be the thing to do.
I love this from Ramen evacuating most of his phalanxes, just leaving a couple over here, because he knows that the air army could be coming. He even preemptively, in a way, I think, moved a lot of his Goliaths and such over to the sort of lower 3 o'clock, the 4th base that he set up. So his 5th is now not really operational. I mean, it has a quarry. That's about it. And indeed, the Gorgons are going to show themselves. This is great because he shows the air units, and he already has Valkyries and a Seraph for armor rend. Like, this is exactly what you want to be in. Ramen making the alteration very quickly to what Shambler's style was at, and finding a way to find a little bit of a timing attack in the middle of the stage. He's got so many phalanxes out in the middle of the map. I think this is going to go Ramen's way in a big manner.
Well, it comes down to the Madcaps. But they can't do much. Just Shambler is forced to retreat right as Ramen deploys all those phalanxes. The Ant Seal's a little bit out of position, getting some free hits in. Ramen able to continue that push. Gorgons for Shambler, coming around the side, getting that flank, starting to do some damage. Ramen irradiating them. Shambler still persisting, taking out all of these phalanxes while the rest of their army struggles to push in. Their numbers having been thin previously. Ramen not able to do much damage, but is able to hold the line, and trading really going their way ultimately.
Yeah, the clerics at the end here really being a big swing because they get rid of all of those. They help the Goliaths get rid of all of those Gorgons. There's really nothing left here for Shambler in the air. And as you mentioned, not really anything left on the ground. He's got 8 Vultures, maybe going to go ahead and try to pressure this lower third, the lower 3 o'clock. But he doesn't really have anything at home. And if Ramen just decides to attack move from this position, he could be in a real winning ways. I mean, look at all of the Ancials that ended up dying at the end there.
That's got to be so frustrating for Shambler right now. They had their tank, they have their army, and it's just pushing in at just the wrong time. As Ramen only having the Gorgons stopping them.
Yeah, Valkyrie's coming
energy,
too.
The Gorgons fall back.
Oh, there it goes.
Third exposed.
Yeah, they completely short circuit the energy regeneration that the Ancials were kind of counting on there, and now there's really only 1 or 2 Gorgons left. Going straight into the mouth of those waiting Valkyrie reinforcements, and with nothing on the ground to, I would say occupy.
To absorb the damage,
yeah. Occupy the Goliath attack angle. That's just going to be more missiles hitting the mark. Sentinel's getting some pretty good efficiency out of here, but that's a third base shutdown. 12 o'clock did end up getting saturated at one point, so the mineral income is still okay for Shambler, but he is really far behind. His Vultures didn't even get any real damage dealt to that lower 3 o'clock, and now the reinforcements are just going to catch the rest of them.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, Shambler last game was able to get that Air Force up quickly enough, but like you said, Ramen knows what to do now. They saw the Gorgons. They know it's going to be the same thing as last time. Adapted rapidly, and most importantly, didn't lose any of their bases in the meantime.
Yeah, that's a really big
deal. The thing is, Shambler did not get any harassment really sticking this entire game. I mean, we have Ramen with some garrisons around the map just to be on the safe side.
Yep.
Even a lodestone, but they weren't really meaningfully threatened for the majority of the game, and that's it. Shambler throwing in the towel and leaving the series at 1-1.
That's right. We will need that decider after all. Very exciting TVT, honestly, which is, I know some people would think that that's an oxymoron, but that was pretty interesting. I want to note as well at the end there, Shambler had way more workers than Ramen. He was up by like 30, 40 workers towards the end of that game. And at various points, obviously, that means he was probably up like 10, 20, 30 throughout the game. Just not enough efficiency, right? His 4th base gets shut down. No, he doesn't saturate that 12 o'clock for so long. And then even when he does, it's after he loses, is as he's losing his 3rd. So not really able to really use it, right?
If they had saturated the 12 o'clock sooner, they would have been in a much better position. Although I do kind of like that, because I was thinking about this earlier, that the way, because I actually want to have a small chat in private, but about the discussion about worker counts. But because the thing is, I realize like Starcraft 2 doesn't really have, well, Starcraft Brood War has and as a CMW, you gradually lose efficiency as you get past 2 workers per mineral patch, whereas like Starcraft 2, it's just a hard cutoff. And the thing is, the mineral patch, like that mineral patch efficiency thing in Cosmonarchy, I think was demonstrated in that game. Because Shambler didn't have as many bases, but had more workers, and was able to more or less stay even up until the point where they didn't really have like the timing and positioning to deal with those phalanxes, which they were honestly close. Like that was a real good trade going in there. They just didn't have a whole lot behind it, but they had the resources to make stuff behind it. And that's because, yeah, they don't have as many bases, but having more workers, it's not as efficient, but it does still keep you even.
Yeah, you can still fight back and, stop the advantage that the enemy has. It may be in a more nominal sense
or
at the start.
Mitigate it at least. It's not as straightforward, oh, they have 2 more bases than me, I lose. It's, oh, they have 2 more bases than me, but we're on like 5 and 7 bases, so I just oversaturate my bases and I can stay competitive long enough to secure a 6th.
Well, I think even the game we just watched would have been extended if the Vultures that went out to the upper 3 went to the lower 3 where there was actually a base.
Yes,
there was nothing in that lodestone.
Yeah.
There was nothing protecting it. There were some reinforcements, but you make those reinforcements go to that lower 3, and that's just going to tie Ramen up a little bit, maybe delay his push, because he hadn't yet sieged up outside of the 3rd at that point. So
not
little
only
things
that,
like that,
reinforced.
Right?
You're right, absolutely.
So there's things like that where I think if you do manage to, even if in a base behind situation, that doesn't mean that you're even. It doesn't mean that you're not ahead from defending and denying the enemy's bases, but it does mean that it's not over, right? And I think actually that's tripped up a lot of players who maybe come from StarCraft 2 or other RTS games where the sheer macro numbers game kind of advantage will give them like a decided victory, right? I know that for a fact that a number of players have come in and just thought that their enemy was dead and didn't realize, actually, this happened even to some of our Brood War heads, where they'd come in and they'd be like, wait, you could actually get a lot of money out of one base or, low amounts of mining relative to the opponent. It's about that saturation, and it's also about making sure that you can, you're on a timer. It's not just the rug's pulled out from under you. You're on a timer before it becomes too much to bite back. And also there's always the knowledge check that maybe a more experienced player who's been outmatched in terms of mechanics can do. And I think that's what we saw Shambler do in the first game, where Ramen was nominally ahead. In this game, Ramen found the response very quickly. So I'm excited. I think, it's kind of a reset for that third game when we get around to casting. It's going to be an exciting one to decide the set.
Absolutely. But that is going to have to wait. So thank
indeed.
you all of you for watching this one, and thanks again, Phonographer, for having me on to cast it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I hope there was some good learnings to be had for everybody who was watching, and I will be catching you guys later for another set of games. And yeah, be back soon. GG's.